Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Nurallah. The beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever recites salat upon me once, Allah Ta'ala sends 10 mercies upon him. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Dear viewers of Madani Channel, Allah Ta'ala has placed on this earth His righteous slaves. There are servants and slaves of Allah Ta'ala on this earth who are loftier in rank than others. They are superior to others. This is an undeniable fact. There are those who have attained the maqam of wilayah, sainthood. And this is understood by the fact that we find the opposite. We find people who are far from that station of wilayah and sainthood. They sin day and night, they transgress, they do wrong. Whereas the saints of Islam, the salihin, the righteous, their sole aim in life is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to gain closeness to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, since they are amongst us, the awliyaullah are amongst us, the salihin are amongst us, the righteous slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are amongst us, we must ensure that we do not cause harm to any of them. Why? Because if we harm a saint of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we harm a friend of Allah ta'ala, we'll be destroyed. Because that wali, that saint has qurba, has proximity to the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala has granted him his closeness. And if we were to ever, ma'azallah, get on the wrong side of that saint, and that saint ends up doing dua against us, or due to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes his saint to be disrespected and insulted, Allah ta'ala exacts revenge on behalf of that saint, what will become of a person? A person will be destroyed. So, we have to ensure that we are far away from, we are distant from harming and causing pain to the beloved friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's listen to an account. Abul Hasan Alawi has stated, once at home I said, grill such and such halal bird. He wanted to eat a particular bird, and he told his family, I want you to grill this halal bird. I will come after I finished an errand and I will eat the food. He says, then I went to the court of Sayyiduna Ja'far Khuldi rahmatullahi alayhi to see him. When I went to see him, he rahmatullahi alayhi said to me, stay here tonight. Now, because my heart was inclined towards the food that I had instructed my family to make, the bird, the halal bird, I made an excuse and I came home. Now, he says the bird that was grilled, it was piping hot, it was on the dining mat. All of a sudden, a dog rushed into the house and snatched that grilled food, that grilled bird, away. Snatched it, went away. He says the maid that was working in the house, she was bringing the soup of that bird, and as she was coming, she accidentally dropped the entire soup as well. So the dog has taken the grilled food, the bird, the meat, the soup has been dropped entirely by the maid. Then in the morning, he says, when I went to the blessed court of Sayyiduna Shaykh Ja'far Khuldi rahmatullahi alayhi, upon seeing me, he immediately said, the one who does not give consideration to the feelings of the mashayikh, a dog is appointed to cause his heart pain. A dog is appointed to inflict pain into his heart. Allahu Akbar. This account is in Ar-Risalatul Qushayriyah. Now this is what we were discussing, causing harm in any way to the awliya of Allah, to those with maqam, those with a grand station in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you reject their offers, if you were to hurt their feelings, then these kind of things can happen, and they do happen. So peace and safety lie in following the advice of upright people and eyes closed. Listen to them. They have closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever they say, we should abide by that. That's where safety lies. If we try to be clever, we make excuses to get ourselves out of a situation, just as we heard in this account, we may end up causing great harm to ourselves. Let's listen to an account in this regard. The commentator of Bukhari, Allama Maulana Mufti Muhammad Shariful Haq Amjadi Rahmatullahi alayhi, has stated that a person once invited the blessed son of Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Rahmatullahi alayhi to his home. Which of the sons? Ala Hazrat had two sons, Maulana Mustafa Raza Khan Sahab, who is known as Mufti Azam Hind, and his eldest son was Maulana Mufti Hamid Raza Khan Sahab, who was known as Hujjatul Islam. So, this particular person invited the younger son, Mufti Azam Hind, Mufti Mustafa Raza Khan Sahab, Rahmatullahi alayhi. And when he invited him, obviously he made arrangements for food, etc. And what happened was Mufti Sahib took rest. The person who was the host stayed awake all night. Why? Because obviously he had heard that Mufti Azam Hind was a born wali, was a great man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wanted to observe the practices up close, unique, special practices. Because by now he's heard a lot, he wants to see it now. Well, what happened? Mufti Azam Hind did not wake up for tahajjud even. And he woke up for the azan of Fajr, offered the Fajr Salah with congregation, and after that, breakfast was served, and Mufti Azam Hind Rahmatullahi alayhi departed. Sharih Bukhari, who is the student of Mufti Azam Hind, Mufti Shariful Haq Amjadi Rahmatullahi alayhi, he's narrating this. And he says, we were informed, we heard that the person was saying that so much has been said regarding this person, meaning Mufti Azam Hind Mustafa Raza Khan Sahab Rahmatullahi alayhi. People say he's a great wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but during his stay at my home, I have not seen anything in that regard. I have not seen anything to convince me that he is a man of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What he was alluding to was the fact that he stayed awake all night, but he didn't see Mufti Azam Hind rahimahullah engaged in any devotional acts of worship, tahajjud, etc. He woke up for Fajr Salah. So what happened? It states that that person began suffering a calamity. He was afflicted with a calamity very soon after. His house caught fire, his entire house, belongings and wealth disappeared, vanished, was destroyed. Currency notes worth thousands were in the house, which also burnt and turned to ashes. Remember, thousands in those days were, equated to a lot of money. Only the clothes he and his family members wore remained. He lost everything. And due to this, because it was such a massive calamity, they said he was mentally affected, became a mental health patient, affected his sanity. Then the scholars in his region, the ulama of his area, they directed him to a possible cause. They said that when Mufti Azam Hind Rahmatullahi alayhi came to your house, you began saying all sorts. That, oh, I heard he was a wali, but I never saw anything special. I don't know why people declare him as a man of Allah, a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I haven't seen anything to assume such a thing. Na'udhu billah. And they said to him, perhaps Allah ta'ala punished you because of this reason. Because of what you uttered regarding Mufti Azam Hind rahimahullahu ta'ala. What happened? He actually believed that. He realized the error of his ways and he thought that was it. Before that, everything was fine. But when I said those words, all of these calamities befell me. I lost everything. But now what could he do? What could he do now? He can't turn back time. He can't completely erase what happened. So, coincidentally, Mufti Azam Hind Rahmatullahi alayhi again visited that area where this person lived, where he was a guest before and this person was a host. Approximately a year later, Mufti Azam Hind came. That person visited Mufti Azam Hind Rahmatullahi alayhi and apologized. And again, he invited Mufti Sahib to his house, became his murid, his disciple. And alhamdulillah, people observed that that person, after repenting, after becoming a murid, after realizing the error of his ways, after showing regret, alhamdulillah, with the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he became prosperous again. And what he had lost had been recovered. Allah ta'ala blessed him once again. So, Dear viewers of Madani Channel, what we realize is that obeying the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very important. Just because we can't observe anything that may give us an indication of their wilayah doesn't mean that they are not a wali. A wali, it's stated regarding him or a female waliya that their biggest karama is istiqamah, steadfastness upon the deen. Today when we hear about a wali Allah, we start asking to see things, miracles, karamat, saintly miracles. But the biggest miracle of a saint is his adherence, strict adherence to the Sharia of Islam. If he's fulfilling his faraid, if he's staying away from muharramat, he's an ambassador of Islam, his zahir, his batin is illuminated with the teachings of Islam, then this is sufficient. Allah Ta'ala grants wilayah to whomsoever He wants. But what I'm mentioning here is sufficient. Yes, then a wali will continue excelling the ranks and elevating in accordance to his a'mal salihah. And just because one day a wali doesn't perform tahajjud, or just because one day he does not perform a particular mustahab act and you did not see it, that does not mean that his wilayah has been negated. That is not a waliullah. Today when we do a pious deed, we may become steadfast in performing salah for a week or 2 weeks, and we start to think we're awliya. But remember, these people, they've been steadfast upon the deen for decades, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. There are awliya who have never missed a salah. They've performed salah right throughout their lives from a young age. They stayed away from muharramat. They protected their bodily limbs from sins. That's wilayah. So, in a nutshell, today we heard about the importance of refraining from harming the awliya Allah. Because if we harm the awliya Allah, that will only come back to haunt us. We will face the consequences of that ourselves. Allah Ta'ala will punish us for disrespecting a friend of His. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from this in all cases. Ameen. Bijahi Nabil Ameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
We love Madani Channel. We love Madani Channel. We love Madani Channel.